Godless, the latest Netflix original series about the godless, rough American West in the 1880s. And I have to say, this show is a doozy. This show takes place in the American West in the 1880s in a no man's land called La Belle. And I mean no man's land in the most literal sense, because there literally are no men left in this town. After a mining accident killed all the men in this town is ran by a bunch of women. Now, before you go thinking this is a Western, a feminist Western tale of a town of women, it's not about that at all. Granted, it's a big portion of it, but it's not about the women. It's about life in the West. Like, watching the show, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but I went in there, and from the visuals of the show is beautiful. The show is beautiful, star-studded, and the story is compelling because I've never been a fan of Westerns. I've never been a big fan of Westerns. They weren't my cup of tea like that. The only Western I've ever enjoyed is Django. I'm sure you know why I enjoy Django. But really, that's been the only Western I've ever gotten into. Wild Wild West, Django, things like that, things I could relate to. But watching the show, it tells the story of just how rough it was back then and just how lawless it was, because it follows two characters, the antagonists, Frank Griffin, and Roy, who is the main character trying to escape a harsh life. And after a confrontation between them, Roy robs Frank and leaves him, and Frank goes across the West, terrorizing, killing every man, woman, and child in his way. And I have to say, this show is one thing, if not brutal. It perfectly encapsulates, it perfectly catches the time frames. Like, this was how the American West was. This was the land of savages. And I actually like that because, like I said, I've never been to Westerns. I've never been to the cowboy who rides into town fast-fingered. I've never been into that kind of Western. I've never really liked it. But this story is a story I got behind because, like I said, it's beautifully shot and the characters made it interesting. Whether it's the women of La Belle living their lives without men and trying to survive in the Wild West with no men around, which is a hard thing to do because if you think about back then, it was a bunch of savage, lawless men who went out there, cowboys who went out there, raped, plundered, and pillaged. And you have a town full of women. I mean, I'm not saying bad stuff are bound to happen, but if you have a bunch of savages who walk around pillaging and you have a town full of women, you kind of know what's gonna happen when savages roll through. But thankfully, that's not all the show is about, because if that was it, the show could have been kind of tacky if you think about it. And it didn't focus too much, like I said, it's about the town of La Belle and things going around, but it didn't focus too much on the women. Like, it wasn't like the women, because they're women, they're instantly badass and it's a social justice warrior message of feminism in the Wild West and they're fighting gun-toting women. Granted, there are some who are gun-toting, but for the most part, they're regular women of that time period. And just following it, I have to say, I was really interested. It really kept me hooked because the visuals were phenomenal. And the story, like I said, brutal, gunfights, like things people actually enjoyed about Westerns that I've kind of liked, but I never got into, because the Western stories to me really aren't fun. Like, watching people be savages and search for gold and kill each other and rob trains and ride horses. Granted, as a kid it was cool. I was one of the main kids who loved playing cops and robbers. But when I grew up, I'm like, how do people live this way? Like, if you see the life of farmhands and people back in that day without technology and just pure savagery, how do you live that way? But this show perfectly encapsulates that life, and it's not just about the roughness. What I did like about the show is one of the positive message of it is, while the West was savage, the West was something that's very dangerous, a land that was very go get 'em, and like I said, cowboys, shoot first, ask questions later type of an environment. The West was also a land of opportunity. A lot of people moved west in American history to reinvent themselves. If you lived on the East Coast, your life kind of sucks. It wasn't going your way. If you moved out west, you became a farmer or you're looking for gold or you became a miner, it's kind of a dangerous job. But if you went there to reinvent yourself and become rich, the West offered you that opportunity. You could have gone west all the way out to California and reinvented your life. So that's another aspect of the show I really enjoyed, because while Frank Griffin embodies the savagery of the West, Roy embodies the possibility of reinventing yourself. Being a former criminal, former orphan, you can go out west, reinvent yourself, start a new life. And if you're a badass gun-toting cowboy, that kind of helped in the security department. But overall, I enjoyed this, and it's kind of hard for these set pieces to have diverse cast, but this show had a pretty diverse cast, because not only were white people going out west, there were Native Americans that were out there already, there were black Buffalo Soldiers out there as well, so that was a big aspect of it. Granted, a minor spoiler, I didn't like how the black people went out like suckers. They kind of were hyped up to these badass Buffalo Soldiers and got taken out pretty quickly. I was hoping for, some Django-like moments, because like I said, I love Django, and we all know why. But they kind of went out like suckers. But overall, I really enjoyed Godless. It's one of those things that I feel like Netflix should do more often, a mini-series about shows. Instead of having Godless be season 1 and having season 2 coming up, you tell a nice, concise story, like kind of like HBO does, visually stunning. I feel like I was watching a movie. A 7-hour movie, but still a movie nonetheless. Because like I said, it's beautifully shot, grade A acting, superb action. Like this show has action, savagery, and it also has human emotions, human experiences, and just a look at what life was like, and just thinking about not just the dangerous cowboy aspects of the badassery of the Wild West, but the land of opportunity and reinventing yourself and the possibilities, the dreams that people had who went west. I'll make Lawless a phenomenal show. If you haven't seen Lawless, go watch it. If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you think. Guys, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Oh, you're a quick draw, see? Hit the subscribe button and leave a comment, guys. Until next time, binge on.